cardiac surgeon from Richmond, Virginia, and having the honor of being at Medicine X since the first meeting. And I'll just take 2 minutes to put a little bit of this into perspective for you. This meeting has literally changed my career and changed my life. In the IDEO Challenge and meeting with Medicine X, I've met some incredible people. I've learned to ask my patients, did I get it at the end of speaking with them? Because one of the e-patients explained to me that frequently docs don't. I've met amazing people who have changed my perspective on the world and on medicine in particular, and gotten to work with all these incredible people, and then to get to go to a meeting that was put together by Nick and Claudia and Larry at the White House was another culmination of really a series of amazing things that continue to happen. And every year that I step foot at IDEO and then later on in this auditorium, I continue to be amazed at the talent and the ingenuity and creativity that I see around me, and it's really inspiring, and I want to thank all of you for that. So the area that I wanted to touch base on, the group that I'm working with that came out of the White House meeting, had to do with using digital data to enable patient matching with clinical trials. The reality is that patients who have especially chronic illnesses, but almost any illness, everyone wants the single best treatment that they can possibly ever get. But they only know what they're told by their local physician. They don't necessarily know what's out there in the entire world. And why should they be sheltered? Why should they not have access to the absolute best medical therapy that's possible, whether they live in Palo Alto, California, or Washington, D.C., or Anchorage, Alaska, or anywhere in the world? So our little group that's been talking about this since the meeting included Marcella, who is here. Kat Brownstein actually put a lot of this presentation together, and then she introduced us to Gajan Sunathra, and who gave us some of this information as well that I'm going to share with you. So clinical trials, and I've been involved from the research standpoint in many clinical trials, it's always difficult to get enrollment. No matter how amazing the new device or the new drug may be, I've never even heard of a trial where they said, oh, we've got too many participants, we have to turn people away. It's always inactive. And if you do a Google search for clinical trials, most of it are articles for the researchers about how to get more participants. So you've got all these people, we want to find that one or two folks that are willing to participate. When in reality, there are so many people with so many disease processes available that want to have an opportunity to have what may be a new breakthrough for their therapy, but we don't know how to connect the two. And that's what we're trying to work on in this group. So one of the things that came up during the meeting in Washington, and then again, subsequent discussions afterward, had to do with coming up with some sort of registry. There's clinicaltrials.gov, there's TrialReach, there's CureCheck, there's a variety of other avenues for work, but how do we get that to interact with the patients? How do we let the patients know that these things even exist? So we thought of potentially, could there be a registry, some sort of lightweight registry that patients would have the opportunity to opt in. It's not full consent for a trial, but just opt in to be contacted that here's your disease state, we have a clinical trial that you may qualify for. As I said, there are resources on the web. Clinicaltrials.gov lists most of these trials. Many patients don't know about it. There are sites like CureClick, which you go through. First of all, it gives you some of the information about how underpopulated most clinical trials are. And then TrialReach, I found, which is an attempt to do this, bring patients together with certain disease processes and help educate them about what may be available to them. But again, we're not reaching one small fraction of those who we should be able to get this information to. So one obvious issue is to say, well, why can't we get the EHR that we were just told 97% of facilities have an electronic health record, and mesh that with the listing of all clinical trials that are available, and let a patient get a list. Here's what's available. Well, the problem is there are multiple EHRs. The EHRs, it's sort of like the VHS and beta videotapes that had to be dealt with. They don't speak to each other. And so there is this fast healthcare interoperability resource that was mentioned in the talk earlier about the VA patient, which is working to do some of that, to become an API, to be able to get these various different medical records, electronic medical records, to then come together and distribute their data to a variety of other resources, and we're hoping that maybe we can tap into that. That's where Kat brought up Gajan. He worked at the White House working on some of this FIRE project and is now back at Boston Children's, continuing some of that work from their perspective. We're hoping to pull in some of his talents to help, again, be able to coalesce the information directly from an electronic health record with clinical trials that are available, whether it's from clinicaltrials.gov or whatever other source, to bring this information and make it available to patients. Again, some of the other factors, and we're going to want input from all of you tomorrow afternoon about how we can make this better, would be to develop this registry, and how and when do you present it to patients? When should they join? We want to really make it the opposite of a do not call list. It's a patient saying, okay, I have this disease process. Anyone who has a trial that might be of benefit to me, yes, contact me. What means can we contact them? They need a unique identifier so they maintain some privacy of their medical information. What amount of information would they be willing to share? Protocols for the researchers and how much they can dig into this database that may be available. There has to be an option for patients to opt out at any point along the way. They can just say, okay, it's too deep, it's getting too personal, I don't want to be part of this anymore, as well as an option for sharing results. This is one thing I've heard from patients repeatedly who've been in clinical trials that I've been part of, is said, I gave permission, I went to all my follow-ups, I was part of this clinical trial, but no one ever told me what the result of it was. That's unreasonable. We want to make it, remove all the hassle. We want to make it a positive, collaborative experience for both the patients and the researchers. The ease of contact for potential patients has to be there. We need to avoid burnouts from patients. They can't suddenly get inundated like, piles of junk mail around the holidays that every researcher suddenly wants a piece of this person because they have an interesting disease. And then there has to be support going forward as to when they would be ready and available to then go forward with the more rigorous and detailed documents about the studies. So other things that we really need help from here, and hopefully tomorrow we can start in discussions about this, is more standards for a registry like this. What limits do we need to put on it? Who's going to maintain a registry like this? Is it a government-maintained registry? Is it something that's done privately, through industry, through the various supporting companies that want to conduct clinical trials? And are there other methods that can be more effective than the ones that we've touched on so far? And then obviously we need volunteers going forward, that anyone who wants to help participate in this and help make this project better, it's something that can only help forward both the ideals of precision medicine and bringing together patients with their potential therapies. Thank you.